tie in and ultimately be the loop.
Yeah, 30 years from now.
That's what I said.
Okay, then we have.
Now we're having this conversation.
Well, I mean, you're having this conversation because the city sent out a bunch of letters before anyone was even prepared to have a conversation. I'm gonna give you my personal opinion. This isn't gonna get built in y'all's lifetime. It's not. But
Okay.
we're here and it is what it is, and now we have to deal with the issue.
Matt,
Hey, he's saying he told you the loop would be finished, right?
Yeah,
And then it's
they,
finished?
no, the addition,
Whoa.
what we're talking about now.
Oh,
It'll be another 30 years.
Can you
before
give me
that.
a second, because he had his arm raised.
So I'm filling in, I don't know what was talked before, and I apologize if I'm asking something else already answered. So I heard a hundred foot right of
The way the conversation started, the way I started the conversation was that when this thing was thought of a long time ago, the right of way on Las Brisas is 100 foot. It's all the other right of ways, when you look at that subdivision, are only 60 foot.
Okay.
So the right of way was 100 foot on Las Brisas, and then from the fence into your property, it was 100 foot setback.
See, I bought it in 2007, and I bought from Gary. When I bought, he did tell me about that 100 feet. So I built my house accordingly. So my house is at like 130 feet, 140. It's a little bit past the 100 foot, but it's still within. I just heard somebody else say there's an additional.
No,
No. It's 100 foot on one side of the road and 100 foot on the other side.
My house is like 130 feet from the road.
Yes,
Right.
that's as
So-
far as the setbacks go.
So, like, according to the map that was sent out on the,
Now, I don't know what they're, now,
there's a yellow line going right through the middle.
all right, let me clarify something. What they're doing and what I'm talking about are two separate things. I'm not sure what their plans are as far as right of way. I'm telling you what the original intention when Las Brisas was built. Now, what they're doing, that's a whole, that has nothing to do with how this got laid out. That has nothing to do with any conversations about what they're gonna buy or they're not gonna buy. That's something the city is doing outside the bounds of any conversations that we've had, other than
So we
I
have
had
two
one
different-
meeting with the consultant, then we had a meeting with them, and out of that meeting, actually, that's where we wound up talking about adding to the existing bridge. We have not seen a final plan of anything they're planning, so I can't speak to what you got in the mail because I don't know what they're doing. And we were supposed to all get together once they got to that point and have a conversation.
So just to
We haven't
clarify-
got to that point.
What the letter which we got has nothing to do with what you guys are.
No.
This was
The
done
thing
a
is,
long time
you are on the
ago.
same road.
Yeah.
So it does have something to do with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
We are on
He's
the
gonna
same
have
road.
the answers?
Not today,
Well, but,
Yeah, I mean.
but before we get Mr. Shiri to answer some of your questions, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. I live right there at the beginning of the loop and Brisas line. I live right there. And you say it's gonna be built 30 years, but until there, like a month ago, there's like survey.
Oh, they're doing something and surveying and doing things, but I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, this project will not be built for 30 or 40 years. The numbers don't work, just like the judge
What's
said, the numbers
discussion
don't
right
work.
here? Because we got one.
Matt?
right here,
Let's do this,
One
real
right
quick,
there.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, ma'am?
In answer to your question, the city sent their consultants, or sent people out there to start surveying the land so they could come up with a plan. The county has already said, we were not involved, we got sort of dumped off the page, we were not involved. Once, he had a meeting with them, which was about a month and a half ago. Commissioner Nettleton explained to him not to do nothing until the city and the county could have a meeting to figure out what they were doing, because we knew y'all were gonna have questions. That following Friday, the letters when the letter went out. We had a meeting the following week, and again, in that meeting, we couldn't get questions answered either from the consultants as to, are you gonna buy the property? Because he said, look, we've had a lot of phone calls, people were really excited because we're gonna buy their land. I said, are you gonna buy their land?
no, we're not excited.
Well, I'm telling you all what we heard.
Not
Okay?
excited.
So, in that conversation was, again, I'm gonna repeat myself, no truths, don't annex, and y'all need to come up with a plan as to what y'all are gonna do. And as of today, I think the city's actually still waiting on their consultants to come up with something. That's where we're at today.
The intention was, is once we got their plan, then we would call a meeting with everybody, because we would actually know what we're
And
talking
that's the
about.
next step.
So somebody trusts the gun and the letters were sent
Oh,
out.
completely.
Way too late.
And what I'm explaining to y'all was what the intention was 20-something years ago, when all of these projects first started, before they decided to do what they're doing, that ultimately that's what that was gonna be. I mean, now, does it mean that it can't change? I'm not saying it can't change. There's a million things that happen. There will be, as y'all all know, there's gonna be numerous new council members before this gets built. There's gonna be numerous new commissioners before this gets built. There's going to be a ton of changes about what ultimately happens. What I looked at when the developers came to me, all these developers, and said, we're gonna start developing this, is let's make sure that we have enough right of way, so if the day comes that a loop is built, we're not bulldozing somebody's house. And the reason I did that is because I worked for the city when Spur 239 got built. And I watched them tear down house after house after house after house.
Commissioner,
Because
another
nobody
question on
plans.
the developers, you work with developers and you answer some of the questions. One of the developers is Gary, I forget his last name. Are there other developers in that area where that, Las Brisas Blvd?
There's no misunderstanding about the two developers about what the intent is.
The thing is, I think Gary's honest. When you buy, I don't know where y'all.
Well, we know Gary's one. Who are the other developers?
Justin
Yeah.
Burks, who sold me mine.
Justin Burke?
Justin owned, but I don't think he is a part of that anymore. I really don't know. We checked.
He's the one that sold
He's
mine.
still-
Yeah, back then he was, but I think he sold his interest out. But anyway, yes, when this was done, this was Gary Glick, this was Justin,
Okay.
up to here. And then that was the end of the conversation, because all the rest of the property belongs to Bill Nixon,
Or that is.
Okay,
or that estate. And so we weren't even considering that as anything that would happen anytime. But because of what I had seen years ago, of people having to sell their homes they lived in and get them bulldozed, I wanted to make sure, and it doesn't mean that a court in the future is not gonna say, you know what, we ain't building it there, we're gonna cut it off and go down 90, and that's not what that means.
Did you have a question?
No,
You already answered it? Any
You know, it
questions?
doesn't mean that those plans
Not
don't
yet.
change. The plans that we talked about years ago with the city are probably not the same set of plans that they're talking about today. These plans change. I put an item on the agenda as soon as I found out they wanted to create a TRIZ, and the court voted to oppose the creation of a TRIZ to tax y'all to do this. We're not gonna support it.
Mr.
We
Myers?
made it clear that we are not gonna support annexation. We are working on, the court has had conversations about working on legislation that would require the city to hold an election out there in order to annex. Now, whether we'll get it passed or not, your guess is as good as mine. We are gonna continue to fight taxation by the city out there. We're gonna continue to fight annexation. Any of these projects do not interpret into annexation as far as I'm concerned of anything I will support. Do I think ultimately there needs to be a loop? Yeah, probably at some point. Do I support a second international bridge today? No, because I agree with the judge, it's not feasibly possible. It will bankrupt this community.
Did you have a question? No?
I think it's more based on for the city, because it's gonna be a partnership between us and Mexico. If we can build our half, but they're not building their half, nothing's gonna work. Are they planning on seeing an increase in commercial traffic, and is that second bridge gonna accommodate commercial, privately owned vehicles and pedestrians, or is it just based on
It's
commercial
mainly
traffic?
commercial traffic and it could be vehicle traffic, but yeah, I don't think there'd be pedestrian out there, but I'm not certain at that point.
Okay, because there's no real infrastructure going into, I think we all know that, from Zaragoza to Acuña, at best, it's a two-lane county road.
From what we've heard from Cunha, we've worked very closely with Cunha and the whole group. They're working very, very hard in Mexico. They're
Everything
getting.
went on to 2007 when they had Muralla, everybody said the same thing, but Muralla de los Santos, it wasn't the same thing, from Acuña to Okinawa, from Acuña to Saltillo, and that was
That's the same exact conversation we had with the city.
The conversation that was had in the meeting was, build a second bridge, you don't have the infrastructure on the other side.
No, we don't.
And then you don't have the infrastructure on this side to get it out of Del Rio.
Exactly.
Well, the second bridge, I mean, the second bridge has to contemplate connecting to Mexico, so they have to come up with their own infrastructure, they have to do that. When, the way this permit works is we work with the Mexican consultants and the Mexican engineers. Obviously, the bridge has to connect, Mexico has to do their connection route, and they have to do their part of the bridge. So, definitely we're working with Mexico. Mexico's told us, and I agree with the numbers are gonna have to support the second bridge. We think that while the numbers might be right now, we have to remember, we're thinking, 15, 20 years down the future, ports to plains. And guys, the one thing we know about ports to plains, it is coming. I mean, it's coming. And this is one of the things that a lot of communities, around, they end up with a major interstate, or they end up with something like this ports to plains. This is how we grow our tax base in the city and the county, and I mean, this is how we end up with stores and with investments.
Well, I understand that the infrastructure's not there either on that side or on this side, but would it stand to reason down the road, whenever that's gonna be, if there's a second international bridge there, because most of the maquiladoras on the Mexican side are on further up,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. That was one of the considerations, I think, when the location was chosen. And I do want to say, as far as, as far as the location, as far as what we see, I know when I first saw the map, the house is right there off the loop. I mean, right there at the top of the hill, they come down, I mean, and they show a line, and I was like, again, none of us want to see a house being demolished. And I was like, whoa. We're going to have to look at that. We're going to have to look. The consultant told me to met with Commissioner Nettleton. The first thing Commissioner Nettleton was put his name down on the same housing, so that's going to have to change. So the most important thing is, and again, I apologize that the letter went out a little bit early, but nobody's committing to anything. You guys are going to have a lot of options. We have a lot of discussions. You are going to have some options. We do have the option, just like to possibly adjust the route. I mean, we saw the other day, and I think possibly, rather than try and connect to the spur, possibly we can connect right up to 9. I mean,
Yeah, there is an option to come across here and go straight into Highway 90 and bring it around. There's a lot of options. The purpose of Las Brisas was that if it was ever needed, it was available. It may wind up like Kingsway one day, and that's all it's ever gonna be. So, yeah, you could still take it here, come through this property and tie it to Highway 90, bring it around, hit the loop, and go. I mean, there's
It'll
still.
affect one or two people that way versus.
And I'm not saying that's not ultimately what's gonna happen, because they don't know and we don't know, because we haven't seen their plan, and I don't think they've actually seen their plan.
Yeah, so, but the good news is, I do want to say that before I came over, I talked to the judge commissioner, so, we did hear, and of course the county, we're very excited to work with the county. Mexico's excited about the lane expansion. I think if all of us had our choice, that's where we want to focus our work right now. We want that to be our priority, because we know that if we add an additional 2 or 3 lanes to our existing bridge, the traffic's gonna come. It's coming.
We have, the
No.
infrastructure's already there.
Well,
The footprint's already there. All you gotta put in is drop a boot.
Well, the thing is though, that at some point, they're gonna have to add wide lanes.
I'd rather see them add.
With the Century and the new,
And we can
cargo
go back.
lane, the cargo lane, that's gonna pick up all of that traffic into the new thing, and it's gonna open up everything. Right now, it's divided, so it's one lane going into the onto.
At the end of the day though, the stuff that we can get done, we need to add more lanes. And I think that's where, we can all.
That's where the focus
We have to add lanes to the bridge.
And then out of that has to come the expansion of the loop, so that we're not sending all that traffic, and we can bring it around right here. And so, in my opinion, that is the more feasible thing to look at. I'm not saying don't plan this for 40, 50, whatever years from now, 30, 20, whatever it is. But
When he gets done real quick, the whole thing was to get you information. How come it's 100 foot? How come it's 100 foot setback? It was set up just in case, all right? What you said a little while ago would make more sense just to go straight out. Go to 90 and then go wherever you want to go, right? And that's not gonna be something that's not gonna be taken off the table. But part of this conversation needs to be is the reason that it's 100 foot, that way y'all are not blindsided again, is that's what it was set up for. Does it make sense today after all them homes? Probably not. But when you see more people out there shooting grades and putting flags and everything, that's gonna be the study that's gonna come back and say, oh hell, we can't put it there.
Exactly.
I think one of the most important things that I heard, if you allow me just a
Go
second,
ahead.
was that these residents of that area will have an input,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
they need to be told ahead of time, you know what, this is what we're thinking, what are your thoughts?
Why were we not even told until like we broke? I didn't see anything about like any meetings to y'all, when y'all, when this started.
We asked the same question.
I'm not gonna tell you about this.
And I understand like 100 feet and all of this, but do you want traffic right in front of your house, even if it's, you know what I mean?
I don't, for the simple reason, what he's proposing, throw him on the bus. What they're proposing with the Second and National Bridge, I got a piece of property in South Delaware worth about $500,000 where my wife wants to build her house. So I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do, when I go home and tell my wife that they're gonna expand lanes and where you wanna build your house. I've got, like what y'all are gonna have, 200 trucks a day running through the front of it.
Like,
I get y'all's
well,
point.
and we weren't told.
No, I was saying, instead of spending like on the, I don't know, paying for the survey and all that, I mean, I'll show this out, like, rocket scientists to figure out how to do that.
Well, they hired him.
I mean, you have to understand, again, part of our problem is, and not making excuses, but this, we started this in 2014.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't have taken us
But I mean, you
almost
should have
two.
just got the plan and looked around to see where other directions would go, like you said.
We did all that, sir. At that time, they had an extensive, they looked at all the different areas, but you have to remember, 10 years ago, when they looked at that, they weren't going through houses, or they weren't having that impact. So all I'm saying is, this would have been better for all of us had the project not had the city not let the project fall off for years, 10 years, and then pick it back up, because now what's happened is you guys have developed, there's development. We should have just continued once we had it, because then we would have been looking closer to what the survey, when they initially looked at it, would have been
And the
closer.
houses were not being.
Yes, and they
But I
weren't
wanna go
there.
back to
And when you
my
look,
thoughts.
real quick, when you look, if you look at the plan right now, and you look at what,
You visualize it.
yeah, today, if you look at it today.
That's what you need, you need.
It was a lot different than when we looked at it.
When you look at it
all the time.
today,
Right.
his idea, what he was getting at, probably makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you visualize it, I mean, come on.
But I wanna go back to your point, ma'am, who sold you the property, Gary?
No, we bought from a realtor.
The realtors aren't being upfront.
That's the problem right there, because.
I've never-
Middleton has been very, he's been very open, and he foresaw this, and he's been planning for that loop for a long time, so that's why he was, and he said, I met with all the realtors, I met with the
Realtors, I met with
developers,
developers,
so
I-
those are the, it's not the city and it's
I
not
told
the
you
county.
ultimately what it was gonna be, apparently.
It's not the city, it's not the county.
I have not tried to mislead anybody, but I've told everybody the same thing. This is 30, 40 years from now. This isn't gonna happen because it took us forever just to get the funding to build this piece. The funding isn't available. When you go to TxDOT, they don't have the funding. When you go to the feds, they don't have it. Now, I personally think we need to invest in Ports and Plains. We need to do a 4-lane divided to Uvalde. We need to get the infrastructure out of here. We need to increase the truck traffic at the existing bridge so that you can justify building a second bridge. Do I think one day there will be a second bridge in Del Rio? Absolutely. I absolutely believe that for this town to grow, there has to be a second bridge. It will be. Now, is it gonna be here? Is it gonna be here? I don't know where it's gonna be, but it will happen. It may wind up south over here. I have no earthly idea. But if Mexico does what it says it's gonna do, and I had these meetings with Jorge Ramon and all of them years and years ago, you know, we were gonna build the infrastructure from Acuña to tie to the main port out of Durango and do all, it hadn't happened yet. But until that happens, there's a combination of things that have to happen. First of all, you've gotta move. They built the major infrastructure, Durango with the rail, bringing out of the ports, off the Gulf, and ship it up, rail it to the top, and then they ship it out. You gotta get infrastructure from here to there. That's one thing. Second thing that has to happen is then you have to make sure all the brokers agree out of Laredo, Eagle Pass, McAllen, to move their truck traffic that they make money off of to Del Rio, Texas. So you gotta negotiate those deals. Those all take time. I mean, it took me 3 months to buy a yard of concrete to pour a slab. I mean, government doesn't work fast. You will have numerous more councils and numerous more commissioners courts, and everybody's direction will change. Now, constantly, things will progress along and eventually things get built. But I wish the city would have never sent the letter until we all had the conversation and we could have met with y'all and really looked at this thing. But unfortunately, we're here, it is what it is, and now we have to work through these things. And nothing, in my opinion, is set in stone about where anything goes. We're not anywhere close to
Well, I would
that.
challenge that with, in retrospect, maybe it wasn't too bad of an idea that inadvertently, not through the city's fault, through that consultants, is the way I understand it, went out, because they still would be in the dark to this day if they had not gotten the letters, and they wouldn't be here. So I don't think that you're getting, is that an agreement? Okay, good. So, at the very least, we have a starting point.
Put the city under the bus.
We have a starting point.
Yeah, we
You
do.
guys know about it, you have questions,
And
you have options.
And I do wanna say, I'm sorry, but really fast, I do wanna say that right before I came over, I asked him, because they've been telling us, and that's what I told the judge and the commissioner, we're waiting to have this meeting. The consultants are going through a couple of the last large tract owners. But again, as was mentioned a while ago, it's kind of good that they're doing these surveys and looking at this stuff, because guys, this is what, that they're gonna determine this is a problem or this is a problem. They have to go look at the route that was proposed in 2014. That's what they're doing now, that's why they're looking at these properties. We already know we're running into problems based on the time that's lapsed in the construction and development. So I can tell you as far as the city, and I can speak for the city council, this is not about annexation. I wanna say that right up front. We're not doing this to try and come out and annex anybody. We're doing this to get a second international bridge. It has got to happen, as Commissioner said. Eagle Pass is moving on the third bridge. Port of Plains is coming now. I mean, that's definitive. We're gonna be the northernmost port when that Port of Plains comes in Texas, right where it connects, that's gonna be over.
And
that what is gonna be big.
John just said right now that they will determine, the consultants will determine, the consultants will give, options.
Yeah, y'all are gonna get a lot of
The
options.
council will
I think
determine.
the city
Yeah,
of Del Rio
question,
needs to
sir?
look at, does
So,
Del Rio
well,
really want this?
Not so much.
Because
There's
you
still
go
a whole
up through
bunch
Eagle
of
Pass.
pieces.
There's
They're
still a
ready.
whole
Not so
bunch
much
of
a question, but a concern, and also, I talk out to my fellow neighbors. So, I was born and raised, I lived here all my life. I love Del Rio. I'm also an industrial engineering major, so I understand business. Like Mr. Sheedy said, like, they are all aware. In order to stay competitive in the global market, that bridge is gonna have to happen. I'm fully aware of that. I understand business. That's what I do. And I'm a supporter of that, because we do need it. If we wanna stay competitive, like they mentioned, Eagle Pass, Laredo, all this other, they're gonna outpace us. If you love Del Rio and you want the city to grow, we're gonna need that, whether we like it or not. I don't want a freaking road in front of my house, because it's gonna be loud, it's gonna be obnoxious. It took me hard work to build a house. I don't fucking want that road, excuse my language. Right?
You said it, not me.
No, but the reality is the reality, correct?
Yeah.
The reality is that we need it. And even though I don't want it, I support it. But at the same time, it cannot come at the expense of us getting screwed, the people that live in the community.
Well, I think that the
So-
county said it very well,
so
sir.
whatever's
That
gonna
choice
be-
is not fair. For the people that live there, they should not be carrying the whole load. I think that's what the county
You
said.
know, whatever gets done has to be done in consideration of us people that live, of us in that community. Whatever they decide, we have to be kept in the loop, because it is going through
And like I said a little while ago, when you look at it today, the road that goes through there today, to me, you have one landowner down here where it turns, or there's a group of them, but it's one company that owns the land between here and the road. And now you wouldn't have to deal with 90 some odd accounts.
We've been
So that's something.
Common sense approach.
Yes,
you
so
know,
that's something that.
Common sense tells
I
you
actually,
go through
when you
how
see the
just
survey,
approach
that's something that they're looking at now.
Ms.
Again, what
Gonzalez?
started this, and you said a little while ago that the letter was the best thing, I'm gonna disagree, because it's real hard to have answers for y'all, but I don't know. I mean, we can tell you that this is how it was
Well,
set up.
because
this
the
is-
way I was looking at it, that if that letter had not gone out, and they would not have gotten that notice, that by the time they got a notice,
No,
is the
no,
contract's
ma'am.
been
No, ma'am.
signed.
I'm gonna disagree with you, it would not have happened. The conversations that we've had with the city, and Commissioner Nettleton and John will attest to this, they were a little bit heated, so no, ma'am, there's no way in hell
Would they
that we
have
were gonna
known that?
allow them not to have a voice
They would
in
not
this
have
meeting.
known that, they're knowing that right now.
But they would, the only difference is the letter was always gonna go out. But that letter, that's part of the process. We know that the letter was sent out prematurely. All I'm trying to say is, those letters, you were gonna get the letters. And the letters, had you gotten those letters, some of you wouldn't even been there in 2014. There would have been very few homes down there, very few development. But the thing with the letters is, all it does is gives us a chance. I wish we could turn back the clock and not send the letters in. Now, I thought we had done that. But at the end of the day, I just want to reemphasize from the city council, you know, you guys are in your properties, that's our main concern. You know, we don't want, like I told you, as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, I'm not gonna be part of something that's dozing. The commissioner put his hand on it. We're all aware of this. We know what y'all are facing. So I've had calls from people. I understand, some people are wanting to develop, they're wanting to add on to their house, they're stuck, they don't know, should I build? I sympathize with that, we really do. That's why we're trying to expedite this, and I want to finish, right before I came out, I called the consultant again, and I said, I need to know, we still want, because what they've been telling us, and as the judge and the commissioner can attest, we're waiting for them to go through this last property owner, so that we can have a meeting with the city and the county. As soon as we finish that quick meeting with the city and the county, so we're gonna be able to get ourselves on the same page, then we're gonna have our first public hearing. They did tell me that they're still looking at doing that, like the second week, middle of October. So we're approaching that quickly. They're gonna have a lot more answers there. They're gonna be able to look at the property, they're gonna say, okay, this is gonna be too expensive, we have homes, we're gonna make an adjustment. And I do wanna say that, and I'm not trying to, because I want every one of you to get whatever's best for you, that's what I want to happen, but you'll have options, and there are some people that, you know, they may be happy to sell. This may be a windfall for some people. I'm not saying for everybody, but there's maybe some people that would like to sell the property and relocate. So I'm just saying people get different options. There are, ma'am, some people that are on board.
Well, I would imagine to your last comment, I would imagine people that don't have a home already built.
Yeah,
they
they're,
just like, hey, it's a-
exactly, that's
you know
what.
what
I could just go to a realtor and sell it just as easy, and everybody keeps their property. If that's a selling point for you, or saying, you know, people are gonna make money off it, it's just as easy to sell to a realtor versus
Yeah.
selling off to the city or.
Sure. And I'm not saying that's not the goal, is to go by, I'm just saying that there's options. So some people that may have a piece of undeveloped property, they may.
Ms. Gonzalez?
I mean, Mr. Shi, you're talking as if like it's like a go-ahead. The developer is like gonna do plans, he's like gonna do, the surveys. He said that it was gonna take like 3 or 4 years and go from there. He said that the other options that were looked at, that they were no-go, like it was, that they couldn't be, like that bridge couldn't be built. The other way, and I mean, you're talking as if eventually, like, some people are gonna have to sell, like you're saying, like, you know, everybody has options, but we don't want it there.
No, what I'm saying, ma'am, is that this road has to go through somebody's property. If it doesn't go through,
Whether it's us or somebody else.
it has to, yes, sir, it has to go somewhere, so all I'm saying is that we want people to have the option. We're gonna try all we can do to make sure that if anybody has a home, we route around those, we try and limit the impact to all of y'all, the existing homeowners and people that have property. That's what we wanna do. But all I'm saying is that we will try, because that's my attitude. Let's just connect right up into 90, we can bypass a lot.
That's the
You
best
guys don't
thing I've
control
heard.
the realtors, but honestly, the real reason we're here in this shitty situation is because of the realtors. And I know you guys don't control that, but they need to be more transparent. Luckily for me, I thought from Gary was very transparent from the beginning. He told me that this was gonna happen. This was back in like 2008. So I built my house accordingly. I built my house back over 100 feet back because I knew this might happen. Unfortunately, some of my neighbors weren't informed because they thought their property from a second-hand owner, not the primary developer. And that's where these problems happen, because you got realtors out there selling property, selling homes, reselling homes, people reselling their homes. They're not relaying this information to the new property owners, and they're not informed.
Do y'all have,
That's not fair to them
do
either.
y'all have an email list or a group, or how is it that we're gonna, I mean, we'll have to do notices, but if we could get an
I
email
tried to
list.
get on y'all's page, I can't.
You have to be invited.
Oh, well, and y'all gonna invite me?
But you have to be Facebook friends to invite, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like you and I would have to be Facebook friends, and then I would invite you.
Well, I just wanted to be very clear on the role of the board organization. If I didn't introduce myself, I'm so sorry. I'm Sandra Fuentes, I'm coach of the board organization, and Marcela Gonzalez, she's part of the board organization. The only reason the board organization is here is because I think your daughter reached out to us, and me knowing absolutely nothing about what's going on, I talked to Judge Sheedy, I talked to Judge Owens, and I talked to Commissioner Nettleton. And perhaps we got, what did we say, jump the gun here? I think we've been using that a lot. Maybe the border station jumped the gun here because they don't have all the answers yet, right? But at the very least, you got to ask them questions. The best thing I heard today was that they're saying you have options. The best thing I heard was that, hey, why don't we go through 90? And maybe they're considering. The best thing I heard is Commissioner Nettleton's explaining to you why this was done way back when. And that we don't know where the POE is gonna end up. We don't know. Can you get these letters prematurely?
But
you're
again,
here.
if I could say, the most important thing on the letters is, again, guys, I'm not trying to say that it was right, or I wish we had waited, but the good thing about the letters is that allows the people, and especially if they've access to your property, for them to stake it out. They need to get a picture, they need to see what's wrong. And the way that they can see what's wrong with our route now is they have got to go in there, they've got to do a formal review, they've got to say, okay, they have houses, this is a problem, and then that's how we can make our adjustments.
Have you been up there?
Oh, absolutely, my son lives there.
So you know.
Yes, no,
You, like,
my son's
you
furious.
come and say, hey, well, you know,
The reason
like you're
we moved
making
out
it seem
there
like
was from the.
One of the main reasons, and it just,
No
and
traffic,
he brought it up a little while ago, right? I will tell you that was one, in the meeting that he actually had with the city, that was one of the things that came up, versus doing all this, why the hell don't we just go straight?
It'd be cheaper on everything.
That was part of the conversation. Okay, so nothing is off the table. It
What's
just
the
is.
90 plan?
Sir?
What's the 90 plan? I didn't hear
I
that.
just tell them that the Brisas goes further with 90 and it's just one block away.
So if you look at the map here,
So if you turn.
you have one landowner, instead of turning going up Las Brisas.
Where this turns from where the bridge is, instead of coming like this, it just basically comes straight and hit Highway 90 and go like that.
That's
Yeah.
just.
I mean, now, that makes more sense, but like he's saying, back then, Lakers wasn't popular.
Well, and you only have to deal with, it's one company that owns all that land. So you have to deal with one company versus trying to deal with 90 different accounts. And then trying to figure out, you're gonna sell, you're not gonna sell, you're gonna sell, you're not gonna sell. And then we really, I mean, it's just piecemeal.
And the other thing I heard about May was that this has been on the works for a long, long time.
A long time.
And it stalled. Had it not stalled, you guys would not have been there
Yes.
because the development of that would already been there or on the works.
That's what made
That's
it
what happened.
complicated. But I did want to add really fast, Commissioner, because when we met with the judge and commissioner, of course, they had that same vision for connecting the spur. We've actually connected, in the county, it was wonderful, you know, they're ready to start helping us with that expansion for the loop on South 79. We talked to TechStop, our consultant business, because we're looking at that expansion on our existing project. And they said that they would, TechStop thinks that they could do the road if the county can.
That's the piece over here, that has nothing to do with y'all.
Yeah, I just mentioned
This is from the existing bridge coming around and hitting 277 south, that's the part we're talking about, it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
y'all.
just wanted to mention.
There's absolutely nobody out there that has nothing to do, other than him, and we're just bulldoze his house, it'll be all right.
But they're still, guys, they're supposed to, again, and I confirmed that, they're still saying second week of October. I wish we could provide more information specific to all.
So is it possible to lay next steps, either with the county or with you?
We have the next steps, I mean, we're waiting on them to
As
finish.
soon as they get a plan, then we can call a meeting.
Okay, so then you
Yeah.
get this, who's in charge of this, whatever Facebook page that they can get on, so you guys can get information and invite them?
Well, it'll be a public notice, I mean, it'll go on as a public notice.
It would be nice to be able to let y'all know what's going on in person.
If y'all have emails or something where we can send you notifications when they publish for public hearings.
Ms. Gonzalez, who's the one that leads this?
I mean, I'm the one that set it up, but.
Okay, you need to get, Judge Owens and Commissioner Hamilton and, Mr. Sheedy, be part of that
I'll get you
conversation.
my phone number. and
I'll
then-
add you on Facebook and then I'll add those to
All right.
But the way I understand it, since you guys have already received letters and y'all are identified property owners, you're gonna get an email, you're gonna get a communication from the consultant that we're gonna have our public hearing. You'll definitely get that, so you'll know, and again, we're very anxious to get this done.
There was also a
Yes,
sheet
ma'am.
that went around, I guess.
There's not meeting.
Yes.
Y'all gonna send anybody that owns property a notification?
Did you ask them if everybody
But I
signed it?
understand that they.
Did everybody sign it? Not everyone?
Well, they use the same addresses they used to send us the letter.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's already kind of built in, so they can just send out.
So here's the question that most people have, I'm sure, is, of course, the
That
letter
only has
and the
his
phone call
phone
that they made
numbers.
with that person on that list is, are we selling our property, we're not selling our property? Do we get ready to get rid of our homes while you guys are thinking of whatever?
Sir, best thing I can tell you is, again, you're gonna have options, so if you guys can just hang in for a couple
I can
weeks
tell you my option right now.
until we have that public hearing.
It's not an option,
Yeah.
that would be an option.
Actually, it's an
I'm saying your other options, I mean, you have other options.
But, Mr. Shitty, can you give us a time frame?
The second, the last notice he gave you was the second week in October, which they've been saying all
All right,
along.
did you hear that? They're shooting for the second week of October.
October.
So they'll send you emails.
Do you mention any concerns that we, or will you mention any concerns?
Oh, absolutely, ma'am, we've talked about
Okay,
all
so
of
can
this.
All the
you pick
concerns
them?
everything that y'all have said has already been said. I can tell you about the road, people not wanting to sell, were they informed, when they bought the property, everything that y'all have had concerns, the court, the members of the court have already expressed their concerns.
And they're telling people different things too.
What are they saying?
They told me that it was gonna be 18 months. When we would find out whether or not,
Yeah, I think,
It was
you're
gonna
talking about the
go-
Calderon guy?
yes.
Yeah, he says 18 months for him to complete his project, then it goes to DC, to Homeland Security.
Yeah.
It would
But
be
then
another
he
couple.
told
But the
somebody
18
else
months-
it was
Yes, ma'am.
3-4 years.
But the 18 months would include this public hearing and the next public hearing, that's the 18 months he's talking about.
A fast track residential permit takes 7 years. And that's if you can speed the process up. Average is probably around 10 to 12.
If we can't come up with a solution that y'all are not happy with, we will put an item on the agenda. And then there'll be a vote to do a letter of non-support. Tell me if I'm speaking out of turn.
I own property out here too. Y'all are not the only ones. I literally own property out here too. I'm not opposed to a road, but I'm not going to let something happen that is going to affect people's futures. You know, when this was put together, it was planned out for a long time from now.
I hear you saying that, but the traffic.
No.
It doesn't make sense to even have people's homes out there. How does that make sense if y'all plan? Do I want 18-wheelers driving on Las Brisas? No.
I can't control what the developer does with his property. All I can do is tell the people what our intent is and what I need done. If he wants to allow you to build a home out there or put in a store, I mean, that's the developer's deal.
Well,
It's not-
yeah, and the realtor should have told
And the
us
realtor
before
should have
we
had
bought.
this, I mean, I literally drove out here and stood on this corner and explained to property owners out here exactly where this thing was gonna go. There's a lot of misconceptions. This is not a county project. I want everybody in this room to understand, this is not a county project. I am not pushing this project. I set up for something that may or may not happen, just so that we didn't have to bulldoze a home.
So
That
we
was
take the
15
brunt
years ago.
Because y'all don't work together.
Well, we are now, and the administrations have changed, and things have changed, and so we're actually have a decent working relationship. So I know from now on, we're gonna be involved in this process, so I'm not too concerned about it. I guess the good thing that came out of this is now maybe the city and the county are actually gonna work together and do something. Y'all need to understand, I will adamantly oppose any annexation. I don't wanna be annexed anymore than y'all do. I will oppose the city taxing y'all in any form or fashion, every step of the way. That's where I stand on this project.
I just want to go back, that you said it very well, that I think that everyone benefits, whether you live in the city or the county. If all, and I'm not just saying the county and the city, if all 4 governmental entities work together, hospital, school board, county, and city, do they have differences? They're human, they're gonna have differences. You know, bash it out behind doors and then come and present to us our options. But remember, they said, you guys can also bring something to the table. Are they invited to when the consultant, when you have that meeting with consultant?
No, the county meeting will just be between the county and the
Okay.
consultants and city. But
The
I did
public
wanna
meeting
read-
will have the consultant.
Yeah, I did want to read, so basically this is my last update. Assist with the schedule of the first briefing of the community for this phase of the project to update owners and interested parties on the status of the project. Time frame for holding this meeting into September, early October. So they're saying the same thing, so that's the first meeting when we're gonna, brief all y'all, and the consultants can actually, again, now that they see the route and they see, okay, there's problems here, there's homes here.
But how,
maybe-
that's the question, how are they gonna brief them? How is a consultant gonna brief
It's
them?
gonna be a
The
public
meeting.
hearing.
It's gonna be a public hearing.
You'll have opportunity to speak.
I'm assuming it'll be at the Civic Center or
Yes,
something
yes.
like that.
Okay, there you go.
I'm assuming they'll have a map, big
Oh, yeah,
maps
they'll
on
have-
the wall, and if they do it like we do ours, they're gonna have big maps on the wall, and you're gonna be able to put sticky notes and make your comments and have input into it. That's the way we do it. I don't know what their consultants are doing, but the way we do it is we literally put the maps on the wall, and you come along, and this is my concern, why don't you look at this, why don't you look at that, and out of it. That's how we would do it. I'm assuming there'll be something similar to that, but I can't, I don't know.
We had a meeting, I guess in July, when we went to lunch.
Yes.
Right after the mayor got in, when we said about working together, we literally sat with the city and we went over projects that we had, projects that they had, this was on the deal. And at that point, the conversation was that nothing would move forward until we all had an opportunity to sit down and they would be able to discuss the plans with us.
What mayor was that?
Arriola.
No.
We waited for him to get in, because when Bruno was there, it was like everybody was in limbo, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So the night that, Arriola got in, Mayor Arriola went in, I called him, told him I wanna have lunch with y'all, I think we need to sit down and go over all the projects. He got sworn in, a couple of weeks later, we met at Montrez, he brought his engineer, we literally sat down and went all over all the projects. This project here was one of the ones that he wanted to look at.
When the
That-
GD2 was there?
Yep,
Oh.
yep. So
That's-
at that conversation, it was, we need to sit down and go over this, we need to schedule a meeting with the county. And basically what that amounted to was, we even talked about who was gonna sit in the meeting, cause we can't have 3 members. So it was either gonna be Commissioner Flores, because his is where the bridge is at, or Commissioner Nettleton, where everything else is at. Or it would be Commissioner Nettleton, and myself. Commissioner Flores says, why don't you just go ahead and go, and you already know my concerns. And we said all this at the meeting, look, you know, this is what we'll have, let's set up some dates. The dates never happened. The only time that we met with the city was after the letter was sent out. And we had conversations that we were gonna, you know, we need to move forward, let's have the meeting, let's do this. And then when the letter was sent out, then it got frantic and a lot of comments were made. But it was one of those deals that you know, when you say that we weren't working together, we literally talked. We fell off the table. I don't know how, but we fell off the table after the letter was sent out. We've had numerous conversations with the mayor, with John Sheedy. I had one conversation with the consultant that did not go well, but we've had numerous conversations, and the answers, they're waiting on the consultant to come back and bring us something. And I'm just gonna sort of go over what we've already talked about. You talked about moving straight. That was put on the table. You know, do we need to do all this? It's gonna cost you so much more just to buy land or whatever. And then you're gonna have people that ain't gonna wanna sell anything, and you're still gonna need it. You know, so we're not gonna be imminent, no, we're just not gonna go down that damn road. So, like I say, that one track that you looked at, that you talked about going tonight, that was put on the table. You know, that's where we're at today.
Because I think as the judge mentions, you know, the last thing we wanna do, simply because we don't wanna tear anybody's house down, but it's too expensive. You know, we can't afford to buy all these homes and properties, and so that's why we just have to make an adjustment now. It's good that we kinda see what the outlay is, the consultant kinda sees where the problems are, there's houses here, and so that allows us to find a new path that's the least impact on everyone out there.
So second week of October.
That's what they're saying, and I suspect it will be pretty close to that, actually.
Well, we just want an hour meeting, it's been an hour, you guys are welcome to say. You don't
Y'all have, I'm
we
gonna
got
give y'all
your-
my cell phone number if y'all want it. Then I'm gonna give you Bo's number.
Oh, we're gonna use it anyway.
Hey, Bo, can you fix the old entrance to Las Brisas?
Yeah, we got it on the list. But yes, we're.
Ever since that trucking company.
Yeah, they tore it up.
Tore it up.
My phone number is 830-734-0575. If I don't answer, if you'll send me a text, I will get back with you for sure. Yes, sir.
Just one request, instead of this meeting, can you make it at a later date? Pretty sure outside of later time, because.
Oh, yes, sir.
People are still working, some of us have to get out of work early.
What we can do is, when they go to have the meeting, 6:30,
It'll be in the evening, cause what we will definitely.
6:30 be okay?
My number is 830-719-9619. And please don't hesitate to call me, because there's a whole lot of rumors out there, and they're not necessarily true. Got a question, pick up the phone and call. I don't mind meeting with you, I don't mind answering your questions.
I'll give you my number is 830.
830-719-9619.
Thank you.
My number is 830-282-5457.
5456.
And the he said the rumors that are going around, whatever, the rumors about me that I cuss them out there. Just to let y'all know.
So I can go in and plant my old trees that I was gonna plant.
Yeah.
Very quickly,
You said, yeah.
very quickly.
I don't think it's gonna get built, but
How did you guys, was this meeting okay? Did it answer some of your, not all your questions, did it answer some of your questions?
Oh, yeah, I mean, just
Okay.
a little kind of relief, or like a little bit, you know.
Okay, that's good, that's a good thing. Berta?
Yeah, earlier, one of y'all mentioned input, that you all wanted our input. And our input is, we live right on Las Brisas. Our home is built about 400 feet in. Yeah, it's built 400 feet in, which is good, but I love to ride my bike. I go up the little street on Las Brisas, I feel very safe.
I'll walk out there.
30 years from now, I wanna be living still,
And
okay?
my grandkids too.
Yeah, and our grandkids enjoy. I have a garden. So, you wanted our input. We don't want to sell. We want to live there in our retirement years. That's our
Like we are
input.
living now.
So if there's an easy solution to go around it, that's what we're saying.
Adrian, what did you think about this meeting? Okay, they answered your
It's
questions.
not sure where everybody wants to be right now, right? And the question still lingers, what do we do with our,
Well,
with
you
our
probably
property?
get more questions for the consultants. Yeah, I think so. Anyone else? Okay, very good. You guys, I was kind of hesitant to come in because you've never worked with the organization, I've never worked with them, I thought it was gonna be chaotic, and I was gonna think, don't jump on them, you know, we're here to ask questions, but you guys did a real good job with questions.